All right. Yes, it's early in the morning. Well, 9:15, not quite, but almost there. And I'm thinking leaves. So, fall leaves. Let's give it a shot. So what I'm gonna do, I've got my MeiLiangs. I never can pronounce, but I think probably if you've been on my channel, you know what I'm talking about. These, the Paul Rubens Student Grade. These are the colors in this palette. And I'm going to be working primarily with some yellows, reds, browns, greens. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and spray these to wet them a little bit. And we're going to also wet our page. I'll work over on this side. I'm not going to be working in a very big area really, but I do want to wet it down because I do want to put kind of a background, soft background here, just with maybe even some yellow, lemon yellow, something like that. So let's see, actually, wow, that really wet that quickly, so that's fine. Maybe even, since we really, that wetting really worked well, let's put a little bit of, yeah, a little bit here and there of blue. Very pale, as you can see. I want it really pale. That's fine. Just like that. All right. Enough for our background. Now, I'm going to take a number 6 round, my Meiden, and I'm going to use, let's see, probably my number 3. And let's start, I think I'm also going to try this Nic Pro 7 round. Isn't it funny, the numbers 3, 6, 3, 7. It makes no sense. I always go on about that, but that's true. All right, so this is still wet, so give it a second to dry a little bit. So what the plan is I'd like to draw some with this one. That's why I chose this. I don't want a rigger necessarily because I want something thicker, but I want to kind of just paint a branch, or you know, with a couple little twigs, branches, a couple twigs off those branches, and then we can paint some leaves off of that. So give this a second. You can kind of tell if it's got that sheen. I can see it, so we're going to give it a moment to dry. Okay, we are dry, and the clouds are coming, so it makes it a little bit easier to see without a lot of glare. I've shifted some things over so you could see my palette here. I've mixed a little bit of color, and what I've used is the tiny bit of coal black with some what they're calling light brown, this color right here, and the dark hooker green. And that's how I've gotten this color right here. Got some of this light brown over on the side. I've got a couple different yellows here, but this one right here is the one I'm going to use. It's the nickel yellow, and if we need to lighten or darken, you know, we can work with that. But essentially going to be using that primarily with a little bit of the light brown, and possibly, we'll see how it goes, we might add in some reds and some additional yellows. But for the branch, I want almost a sepia, which is kind of, you know, I've got something a little more brown than a sepia over here, but if I have to, I'll go back to the sepia for shading because I want it to be not too dark to kind of work with those leaves. So let's get started. Switched up the brush too, because the Nic Pro, I just don't think it just ends up being a lot. It's a softer brush, and it actually ended up collapsing more than I wanted. So let's start with this. And the first thing I'm going to do, like I said, is I'm going to try to get in here with a branch. And I don't know, let's see what direction. Let's go ahead and go from here and just kind of, I'm going to kind of wiggle a little bit and just like that. Now here we will create a little stem. Not going to have a lot of leaves. This is all about the color and the style. So maybe just one more here. All right, let's get some leaves in there. And see, as light as it is, I want to be able to come back in there and darken it with that sepia when we want to go into our detail. So for now, let's start with our leaves. And for the leaves, I'm going to use the 6 round. I'm going to take some of the lighter yellows, go ahead and mix them together, and map out these leaves. Now I'm not doing like a maple leaf and whatnot because I don't want to get into that much of a shape. But what I'm going to do instead is do something, and you can kind of tell where I'm going if you can see that, with something more like this. So I'm going to fill in this particular one. Then I will come back and drop in the colors I want. So with this one, for example, I want this nickel yellow to be the color that I'm primarily working with, and I want that kind of a jagged edge look. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this green, this dark one here, which is kind of like the dark hooker, and just along the edge here, I'm going to drop some in just here and there. Let that do its thing. I'm going to take some of this brown and sepia, or I keep calling it sepia, but it's not. It's that what they're calling a light brown. And just like that, just going to kind of, there we go. All right, let's work on the next one, and then like I said, we'll do our details later. We're going to start with our lightest yellow. I'm going to go here with this one and really just kind of giving it the shape for now, and then we will fill in that shape with this color here, just for the wetness of it. We'll drop in that nickel yellow, which I love that color. It's just kind of a darker than a medium yellow, but let's see what we got here. Kind of drop that in, let it do its thing. This one might be a little bit less. Let's put some of this here. Let it flow through, maybe a couple places here. And just a tiny bit of the green. There we go. And then let's go to our next one. Same process. I just wing it, you know, as far as the size, you know, however big you want it to be based on your page. But this is the stage where you're defining that leaf. And then you go in with the water. Just with the tip of the brush. Okay. Pull in some of the nickel yellow. Love that color. This one, because there's so much water there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the very edge of my cloth and I'm going to soak up some of that water. Because it's so wet, I want it to move, but I don't want it to pool. I could do the same thing with a brush, but I don't really want to disturb too much of what it's trying to do. So all right, and it's just because I've got too much water on my brush, just like here. So what I'll do is I'll take my brush in this case, and I'll just soak up some of that extra. So let's, with this one, a little bit different, a little more controlled, because I soaked up that water. And a little bit here on the edge. In fact, we can use that to kind of help define the ragged edge on this. And then on this one, and this time I really am kind of dabbing my brush against the towel. See, I just want a hint of that green, which is perfect. All right, next over here, we'll start with our lighter color. And this time I'm going to figure out where I want it to be, kind of off on the side here. There's the tip. And I will work my way down this time. This one's not quite as front facing, but more, a little bit more on the side. So there we go. Okay, and this here is actually, what are they calling this color? It is natural yellow, which really it's like a yellow ochre. And I think I'm liking that one. Just do it on the bottom parts here. And then a little bit of the, can't remember what they're calling this one, light brown. This side. Got a helicopter going over. Drop a little green in there. And along the edge on top of this one. There we go. All right, now everything else that we do, we're going to be kind of working with these particular, I kind of want another one right in here. So let's go ahead and put another one there. That's our prerogative. So I'm taking the Nic Pro again, going back in with this brown, and let's see, maybe just right here. I'd rather work with odd numbers than even. I don't know why, but I think it just is more appealing and more natural to the eye somehow. I don't know how. But there's that. Take the last of our little really wet here, light yellow. And with this one, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go, like this one's got a fold in it. So with this one, there's the thin part, and I'm gonna go this way. And I know you probably can't see it, but I'm doing little spikes. So we're doing one part of this at a time. There's the one part. I want one side to be kind of smooth, the other side kind of jagged. Okay, that one's got a lot of water, so I'm going to take my brush and just soak up a little bit, because we can always go back and add color, but we don't want that water running on the paper or pooling too much. There we go. So when that one dries, what I'll do is on the other part of it, I'm going to come around this way, and then we'll have a little bit of a shadow. So it shows that the leaf is folding up like that. Okay, I like that idea. Let's take our little Meeden 3, and we can start working on, let's see what we got here, how dark this is. On the branch itself, and just really every here and there. We don't want to overwhelm it, because it's not the focal point, but we also want to add a little bit of shading just to kind of show that it's kind of a rough kind of looking piece of nature. That's pretty good for now. Let's wait until, well, we can work on these other ones here. So the same thing, what I'm going to do, I don't think I'll need the sepia for this, but I'm going to take a really, really light amount, and I'm going to see if I can get some veins kind of going in here. See, just, they can be broken. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. And not everywhere, just kind of here and there. Really light with just the tip of the brush, just like that. This one, let's just kind of bring it down this way, and just the veins on this side. This one here is also dry. Now with this one, we can be a little more in your face with it. Not too much though. I really, really need this to be very, very light. Let's see how we can get a little bit more of directional and that type of thing with it. Starting to look more like a leaf. We'll probably go around the edges as well, like a burnt edge. Just like this is showing up here, we'll do the same around some of these other edges. In fact, with this one, I'm going to go ahead and do that. See, it just adds a little bit more. This one too. And some on this side. There we go. Just enough to add that three-dimensional kind of look. This one's really wanting me to put some kind of shading in the middle. I really kind of want something deeper here. And it's so subtle, but it's going to be enough to kind of give it that distinction of a fold, kind of like in the leaf itself. All right. This one over here. Ooh, don't want to do that. Now, if I was going for that, that would have been pretty cool if I was wanting it to have like some water spots the way they cauliflower, but I don't. Not with this one, I don't. So I'm going to use this and just kind of drop it here on the edges. And again, this is this brown. Just kind of give it a little, like it's folding. Maybe this is an older leaf. It looks like it is an older leaf to me. So a little more intentional with that brown. Maybe add a little bit, a tiny bit of this green in here. And then if we want to, we can pull in some of this nickel yellow, just in a spot or two. There we go. All right, last one over here. Once that dries, I think I prefer the brown. Leave this one. I'm going to take some of that bright out. There we go. Let that dry. I think I liked it better with the brown. Let that be the deader leaf. I'm good with this, almost good with that, but this one here is the one that I want to really kind of work on. We are going to define our edge here. All right, and then as soon as that dries, while that's drying, let's see how this one's doing. I have to really kind of lift up and see based on glare what's wet and what's not. So I really kind of want to do a little bit more here, and I'm talking really, really just pull in some very, very loose kind of edge. just like that. Not too much. I could really kind of use a little more here. Give it a little bit of a brown tip, like that. This one too, the tip can be a little bit more defined. There we go. All right. Okay, we're gonna let that one be. Let's go back to this one. And let's go ahead and put the other part of that leaf in there. I'm gonna take the nickel yellow. See what I'm doing? Now that I've got that in, I'm just going to touch the edge of it and let it flow back in. Once it does, then I'm going to take a mix of the brown and the red, and then some of that nickel yellow, and let that be just down in here. Cool. Now I can work on the outside of this, kind of like that same, kind of with these veins. And then we can pull in a little green and fix this color a little bit more here. Gotta be careful I'm not pulling in that shadow. We're gonna shade a little bit more under there, but I think you can see that fold. All right, I want some more green on this one. So let's do that. Kind of just enough to keep it consistent with the others. That's enough. And then here, let's make sure we're dry. We are. Let's kind of use the green for the edge here. And then behind that, trying to gauge which color I want to use for that shadow. So let's try this. I'm good with that. The light's hitting the other side, but we do need to hit some green or something, even if it's this over here. There we go. All right, got a little crazy. There we go. Let's let that dry, do a little bit more on the stems, and we'll have it. I am going to go into the sepia, which is this one right here, and you'll see it's a dark, but I can go in real light with the, I think it's this one. Gosh, they make me so confused, these colors. So there's ivory black. Oh, it's this one right here. Yeah, that's the sepia. Can go right up into the leaf. It is this one here. But I am using a very light touch. You see, I'm just pulling it just a little bit into the leaf itself. And then the last one is this down here. I need that darker. Working outside, things tend to dry quicker, but you just never know. All right, I like that better. A little bit more here right in the center. A little bit more here right in the center. Definitely more in here. And then this one, we can now put our veins, what little we are going to put on it. And that's it. There we have our fall leaf branch. You want to see a little bit more of this yellow here? I do. So I'm going to take the nickel yellow and right here on the outside, there you go. I needed it, this one too, just for balance. Just for balance. There we go. Feel much better about that. Blend this, and to blend it, I'm just going to use a very damp brush and kind of just twist out some of that. There we go. All right, we're good. Background has a little bit of blue. We can put a little bit more of a wash down at the bottom if we want to add some more of that without getting into some of the stuff that's already there. Use kind of a negative painting kind of thing. Don't want too much, but I kind of like this blue up here, so I want to add a little bit more of it just slightly down here in this corner. And let that fade out. Just like that. All right, I think we are good. What do you guys think? I hope you will give this a try if you've not been painting along with me. And just have something very simple. Sometimes that's all it takes. Something simple, something quick, and it just makes your day enjoyable to be able to spend a little bit of time outside, at your desk, wherever you're painting, your kitchen table, which I do a lot. I used to do more than I do now. But I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you will hit like and subscribe so I can keep this channel going. And I hope you have a wonderful day.